Thank you all again. It's nice to get together once a week and to reconnect with our hearts and our higher frequencies in life. So we are continuing our exploration of the 9 islands of the heart. I think we actually concluded that last week. So I thought, I was driving yesterday to Alachua, Florida, and I was thinking, why not let my mind wander off and see what realizations come. And I was sharing with one of the students how if we are observers in this world, then what happens is there will be many, many opportunities that we will find in this world that enable us to learn things and more educational prospects or knowledge will be provided to us by simply being an observer. And how to remain calm in all situations is one of the things that I was discussing with the student yesterday, and how beautiful it is when you come to the space of accepting how everything has a divine order and things eventually all work out for the best. So today I wanted to discuss with all of you, based on this meditation, about 3 functional levels of consciousness. I've gone into different levels of consciousness in different discussions. This time we're dividing the consciousness into 3 instead of 4. Sometimes we divide it into 5 to better understand the different functional realities of consciousness and how that environment that our consciousness is in, then we are able to then change our geography, or our geography then changes our actions. So today I wanted to speak about consciousness or consciousness in the mode of goodness, and what does fighting what in the mode of goodness looks like. Some people think that in the mode of goodness there is no fight. Who here thinks that mode of goodness there is no fight? Yeah, people think because it's good, everything is good, why should there be a fight? You'll be surprised to know that even in this mode of goodness, this high level of consciousness, there is still fight. And I'll give you an example from the Ramayana. There's 2 brothers. Actually, there's 4 brothers, but 2 of them, they get into a fight. And the fight is between Ram, who was the great prince of Ayodhya, being exiled to the forest by his stepmother, and his brother, Bharata. Clementine, welcome to the Heartspace. I noticed you joined the call. So nice to see you. So these 2 brothers are having a fight because the older brother Ram, he's being exiled to the forest. We won't get into the details and the reason behind him being exiled to the forest. But The principle was that he was exiled to the forest and his younger brother was crowned as the king while in his absence. But this younger brother, Bharata, had such deep love for his brother that he did not want to be the king because he wanted his brother to be the king. So he goes all the way to a place called Chitrakut in the forest where Ram was there with Sita Devi. He went there with all the kinsmen and he wanted to bring Ram back to be the king of this great kingdom called Ayodhya. So when he approached Ram, and brotherly rivalry sometimes gets very, very dark. They don't talk to each other. Imagine you being the older brother and you being banished to the forest and your younger brother becomes the heir to the empire that your father has created. How would you feel? But Ram, on the other hand, he's not thinking like this. He sees his brother and he gives him the deepest, the most heartwarming embrace. And they have a fight. And the fight is who's the more qualified person to run the kingdom of Ayodhya. Bharat approaches the older brother, by explaining that, my dear older brother, you are created by providence to be the heir to the throne of our father. You have all the qualities of the most righteous king. Just by your presence, everyone in the kingdom of Ayodhya is filled with abundance. And then Ram presents the argument to Bharata. My dear Bharata, you are a greater king than I could ever be, because you are the son of my stepmother. And you have all these qualities. So this fight goes on between the two brothers. What is the fight about? Who is right and who is more right? So this is what happens in the mode of goodness. Who is right and who is more right? So this is what fight looks like. And this highest level of spiritual consciousness. Has anyone ever had such kind of a fight? Narayani, you had fight, huh? Fight in the mode of goodness, proving someone. But I've noticed that in our circles, at least in some of my circles that I've noticed, we pretend like someone is greater than us, but in all reality, we feel that we are greater by giving them a higher position. No, you're better. No, you're better. So in this way, we have this artificial, I don't want to say humility, or artificial imposition of this position that someone is greater than you, and you fight about the other's greatness. But in the mode of goodness, this is a constant state of consciousness where you think that everyone else is greater than you. And you're always trying to prove how everyone is greater. Because all we see is the spiritual divine qualities in others. Does that make sense? Fight in the mode of goodness. And then there is fight in the mode of ignorance. What is this fight in the mode of ignorance? Fight in the mode of ignorance is one person telling the other person how they can enjoy the material world better. Encouraging someone to fight. See, if someone is down, then you try to present why you should beat them down even more. This is fight in the mode of goodness. If you go to, some of you, if you go to a bar and you see all these people who are completely in loss of their actual consciousness, and they're operating from a darker consciousness, you'll notice that they lose their identities and they become someone else. And whatever goes wrong in that space, everyone loves the fact of, chaos and fights. So when someone is down, everyone is thinking, how to put that person down even more. And this is something that happens in the mode of ignorance. You will see in the example that we see in the Ramayana, Ravana, he had a kingdom called Lanka. And Lanka is a kingdom where no one ever sleeps at night. And the reason they don't sleep at night is because in Lanka, it is known that everyone steals. And so when you steal others' property, you can't sleep at night. That is one of the reasons it is explained in the Ramayana why, in this great epic, why the residents of Lanka, they do not sleep at night. Of course, our reason for not sleeping at night is something else. Our technologies are more the cause for our case. But in Lanka, it was a different case. So Ravana, he had captured the wife of Ram, and he had kept her in his garden, surrounded by 700 security guards. And the description of these security guards are quite gruesome. They're very ugly. They had one eye, one mouth, imagine how they would look like. And she had 700 guards guarding her. And every one of those 700 guards were trying to convince her, Sita, why don't you just enjoy Ravana? And then, you will not be miserable anymore. Just go ahead and just enjoy. Because that's what Lanka is. It's about enjoyment, material enjoyment. And Sita kept giving reasons. And one of the ministers of Ravana had approached him and said, Ravana, you should just go, and you're the most powerful king in the world. You should just take control of the situation and enjoy Sita. And Ravana was very careful, because he had a curse that if he ever tried to enjoy a woman without their consent, that he would immediately cause him to die. And so therefore, he was holding back. But the mood in Lanka is that, yes, you have the right, just go ahead and enjoy and take what is yours, and whatever is also not yours, just go for it. So we see fights that take place in the mode of ignorance, and that is available in the land of Lanka, where the fight is just go and take advantage. And everyone is encouraging you to do that. 700 soldiers. And then we see fights in the mode of passion, where that is determined by the association that we are in. Sometime when we fight in the mode of goodness, in the mode of passion, we are operating from the space of goodness, and sometime in the mode of ignorance, because passion is in the middle, so it fluctuates, it goes up or down. And that is our situation. Depending on the association we have, then that determines how our fight is. If we're in the association of people in the mode of goodness, then our fight will be trying to prove how that person is more qualified and better than you and more advanced than you, and you have deep love and respect. And when our association is not that great, then we will be figuring out how to put the person down. And you'll notice this happens. Our consciousness is always fluctuating between goodness, passion, and ignorance. It just goes up or down, and in between. So these are 3 levels of consciousness that the human beings, they operate from. So now, what are the more subtleties of the 3 levels of consciousness? In the mode of goodness, you'll see it is a state of consciousness of gratitude. Mode of goodness means always grateful. You will know when you're in the mode of goodness by how grateful you are with what you have in life and who you have in life and who you are in life. This is considered to be in the mode of goodness. And everything in this world will remind you of the beauty that is offered to you. And the example is also there in the Ramayana. When Sita Devi comes back from Lanka to Ayodhya, which is where she belongs with Ram, and they're reunited after a long separation, and everything is perfect in Ayodhya. And one day they're playing this color festival called the Holi Festival. Some of you know this Holi Festival. And this Holi Festival is where they throw this red dye. And Sita Devi sees this red dye, and she's immediately brought this remembrance of this great vulture king named Jatayu. It's interesting because everything in this world reminds us of something or someone or a situation. And for her, because everything is going great in her life, she is remembering the sacrifice of this vulture king that tried to defend her from this demoniac king named Ravana, who tried to kidnap her, who did not try, who actually kidnapped her and held her hostage. So simply by looking at the color of the dye, she is feeling the deepest gratitude for someone so long ago in her life had defended her. And this is a sign of someone in this highest level of spiritual consciousness. They're operating from the level of deepest gratitude. Everything in this world reminds you of the sacrifice, reminds you of the gifts and the beauty that we have in our lives. So this is consciousness on a higher level. Thank you, Lakshmi, for joining us. So this is Sita Devi, mode of goodness. And mode of ignorance, there is no gratitude. Everything is here and now, and enjoyment for the senses and the sense pleasures. And the world owes it to you. Why isn't the food ready? Why isn't this one doing this for me? Why isn't that one doing that for me? So this constant emotion of dissatisfaction. Why isn't the world bending backwards to serve me? And it is not necessarily the you, it is a space because we operate from our senses and the mind, and it needs constant gratification. And it is never gratified. And so therefore, That is the consciousness that is available for those who are in the mode of ignorance. It is constant. Then we see those who have this emotion of gratitude, but they forget it and they have to be reminded. And they have to be shown that gratitude is a divine quality, and maybe you need to step up the game a little bit. And that we see also in the Ramayana, in the case of this great monkey king Sugriva that we had spoken about once. This king Sugriva, a very interesting guy. He creates this deep loving friendship. They sign a bond with Ram that we are going to be friends forever. Your kingdom is my kingdom is your kingdom. And we'll always be there to protect each other and be there in each other's good times and bad times. And this was a ritual that took place around a fire, a sacrificial fire ceremony that happens. Nowadays, when we make friends, we just friend each other on Facebook or Instagram, or I'm not sure how other ways people make friends, but those days, people took friendship very seriously. So they would have a fire ceremony where they would take these vows of friendship. Even after taking those vows, Sugriva had forgotten his words to Ram, his friendships. So much so that Ram had to send his brother Lakshman to remind him that please remind Sugriva that we have this friendship, that I have helped him and he's supposed to help me. And so Lakshman was designated, Ram's other younger brother, he had 4. He was designated to go and remind Sugriva that please have a little bit of gratitude. But he also made sure that when Lakshman went and approached Sugriva to convey the message, that he did not scare him. Because Lakshman was known to, be quite scary sometimes. Their messages are very direct. That could be scary. And fear is a good thing, but too much fear may not be good. It can deter people. A little bit of fear can bring people closer to one another. So he explained to Lakshman that please go and talk to Sugriva. And Sugriva was completely lost. But as soon as Lakshman reminded him of the promise, then he immediately remembered, yes, this is how it is. I should be grateful for the friendships that I have with Ram. He has stood for me in difficult times. And it is my duty now to offer that gratitude back. So this is, we see someone in the mode of passion. They have to be reminded. And this is our nature, that we often forget about the people that have contributed so much in our lives for our growth. And they helped us in so many ways. And this is an opportunity, because when you have good friends, they will kindly remind you. And we can grow from that friendship. So these are the 3 levels of consciousness, of fights, and 3 levels of consciousness that our being, our state of consciousness. And I don't know if any questions on that, any clarifications, or should we move forward? Are we good? Are you all with me? Okay. So then, now we want to try and understand a little bit of a different scenario from this consciousness. When we are mingling with the consciousness of someone who is in the mode of passion or ignorance, then what happens is we're constantly seeking approval and comparisons in life. This is something that happens in the mode of passion and ignorance. There is competition that comes from mode of passion and comparison. From mode of passion, because of this competition and comparison, you can go down to the level of ignorance, where the relationships, your consciousness is very dull, where you're not able to see the beauty of life. It's a very lonely place. And then from this same level of mode of passion, you can also, through good association, you will start to see from the mode of passion, you can also jump to mode of goodness. And what is that mode of goodness? Through association, you're able to change the lens that you see the world with. And that lens is the lens of bhakti that we're talking about. So association from the mode of passion with someone in the mode of goodness, it lifts you up. So there has to be some effort that has to take place. But natural state of someone in the mode of goodness, it is comparison and competition. And this comparison and competition naturally gravitates towards the lower mode, which is the mode of ignorance. So therefore, in bhakti, we emphasize tremendously about the importance of good association. So the sanghas are the most powerful way to stay connected to yourself, to your higher self, and it is the most powerful way to elevate your consciousness. Every opportunity that we get, we have to see how to find good association. Every time there is a kirtan, there's an opportunity to do seva, then we are taking that opportunity so seriously so that our consciousness can elevate. Okay. Any questions or reflections on this? That's our 30-minute discussion on this topic. Any clarifications needed? Any doubts? Any objections? Wow, you guys are such a great audience. No questions, no doubts. For those of you who are coming with me to India on this pilgrimage in October, I want to give you a few little insights, because we're going to different places and we're going to be hearing a lot of beautiful pastimes of Ram, Hanuman, Krishna, because we're going to those holy lands of Vrindavan, Rishikesh, and other places. So one thing that's very, very important in going on these journeys and these pilgrimages is to understand that it is not a physical journey that takes place. It is not just, we're just physiologically just moving our body from one geography to another. It is a geography, it is actually a journey of our consciousness. And in order to go on a journey of our consciousness, we have to take a little bit of a preparation, because very soon there is 30 of us who are signed up It's going to be one of our most tight group of yogis traveling to India. And the consciousness that is explained, because if you go to India, especially these holy places, with the current lens that you have in life, you may not be able to see spiritual India. So you may have to change your lens a little bit. And that's what this journey is all about. Putting in or hoping to try and change the lens where we see India with the lens of someone who has seen the spiritual India. And that is why you will notice it's so important to go to these places with a teacher who will be able to open your eyes to the spiritual Vrindavan, the spiritual Rishikesh. Otherwise, what we'll see is just crowded, a lot of traffic, tons of people singing, chanting, dancing, pigs, animals everywhere in the streets. But deep within all of that lays something very, very, very powerfully enriching and transforming. For example, simple things like this, right? Like when we go to these places, we're going to be chanting mantras. We'll be chanting Ram, Krishna, Hanuman. All of these words we're going to be chanting, and each one of these words in itself has deep transformational energies. For example, when we go to Rishikesh, we're going to go to these two bridges. And I'll tell you so many more stories of those places, historical facts also. Ram, he had crossed through one of the bridge, and Lakshman, so these bridges are named after them. And uniquely and interestingly, just by chanting the word Ram, Rama, it means one who gives pleasure to the heart. So what happens when we go to these holy places, simply doing kirtan and being in a state of consciousness, our consciousness will even open up more and expand our experiences. So we have to see Rishikesh, Vrindavan, not with this so-called material lens that we have, but we'll be seeing all these places with the heart, the lens of the heart, because it requires the heart to see another heart. The geography that we're going to, Vrindavan, is the land of, it is called the spiritual heart of the world. And so therefore, when we go on this pilgrimage, we'll prep you. We'll do a lot of meditations before, during, and after each one of those places. So you can really, really feel the transformation taking place. Because it is a journey of our consciousness that we're going to embark on. So we're thinking mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance, or ignorance, passion, and goodness, but there is something higher that you'll experience. And that happens from being in these powerful, energetically charged spaces. So this is for many of you who are going to India. Okay. I have some unpacking to do and driving back to Atlanta. So any questions, comments, reflections anybody wants to share? Yes, Clementine. We are not able to hear you.
Sorry. Could you go back to the beginning when you began this talk and you talked about the consciousness of goodness and the person who always wants to see that the other, no, wants to say, you take the high road because you're better than I am. And yet in their heart, they want that to be, that's the way I understood it. Would you clarify that for me?
Yes. So mode of goodness means that everything is great. Everyone is great. When you're fighting about each other's greatness, trying to prove each other is genuinely greater than them. So that's whenever there's a quarrel in the mode of goodness, it is actually the most beautiful quarrel that you'll ever find. Because they are simply talking about the greatness of another person. And imagine that consciousness that we live in. And this consciousness of proving that someone else is greater than you and being convinced about it and fighting about that. This is the consciousness of this great place called Ayodhya or Vrindavan. Ayodhya is where Ram, in the Ramana, where the epic takes place, where Ram had lived, and that place is called Ayodhya. Ayodhya means a place of no war. Yuddha means a war or fighting, and the place of no fighting. Why is it a place of no fighting? Because it is a space that has the divine presence of Ram. Because everyone is chanting Ram, 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 Ram. That means gives pleasure to the heart. And everyone is centered in their heart. And when you're centered in the heart, you're always thinking of the good of others and everything in the world. If for a moment you think something is not right in this world, you will know that you're not situated in the heart. Because heart is the space of purity, heart is the space of the divine.
Okay.
And this is what Ayodhya means. Ayodhya means the center of our existence.
How do you spell Ayodhya? I-O?
Ayodhya.
E-H-Y-A. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Clementine. Beautiful question. Anyone else have anything else they would like to share? Okay, if there's no questions, then we'll have, yes, Haripriya.
So I've learned a lot through your Chitta-Cleanse about paying attention and inquiring when things come up in the mode of passion. And I'm curious, if I pause when I notice if it's happening, if you have any other suggestions other than pausing and redirecting, and do you have any suggestions when we find ourselves in that space?
Yes. In life, we all need teachers. And you'll notice even in this great epic of Ramayana, Hanuman, this monkey god, he is going all the way. He flies all the way to the kingdom of Lanka where Ravana was residing. Why did he go there? Because Sita Devi, wife of Ram, she was held captive and she was constantly chanting the names of Ram. 24 hours, she would not sleep. She would just chant Ram, 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 Ram. Because she wanted to be connected to Ram. He was the Lord of her heart. And so, because she wanted that divine connection, then a teacher shows up. And who is that teacher? And that teacher happens to be Hanuman. He represents the teacher. So teacher comes in and starts. And you have to realize when Hanuman, he's a big monkey, He jumped across the whole ocean with one leap. And when he reaches Sita Devi, he wanted to make sure that Sita Devi was not frightened by him, because that whole garden where she was held captive was filled with demons protecting her, making sure she doesn't leave, and constantly and just nagging on her to break her down, to give in to the demands of Ravana. And Ravana, the word Ravana means one who makes others cry. And you'll notice this is the story of our life. We all have Ravana and Ram, options. You'll have people in your life who brings joy, and there's people in your life who makes you cry. So Ramayana, this great epic, is all about life. It gives you very detailed principles of how to live and govern. And so here we see Hanuman goes in and he takes the small form of a small monkey that could camouflage behind the leaves under the tree, on a tree, because underneath it, Sita Devi was being held captive. And he did not want to scare her. And he just simply started chanting, Ram, 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 Ram. And Sita Devi is hearing, who is this person chanting the names of Ram? And by hearing the chanting of this monkey, Hanuman, in such pure consciousness, Sita Devi, her fear in her heart that this monkey was Ravana disguised as a monkey to entice her and to break her down. But the purity of his singing was such that her heart started to feel joy, and trust was building inside. And this is the teacher who comes in with humility. And finally, when the student's heart is ready for the teacher to show up, then Hanuman comes down from the tree and starts singing the story of Ram to Sita Devi, the story of the divine to Sita Devi. So in our lives, whenever we are having any difficulties, we have to see how to take shelter of a teacher if we need some help. And we all need teachers in our lives who can help us to guide through this journey of life. Because alone on our own, it is very difficult. We see in the examples of today is the appearance day of one of my favorite saints. His name is Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I just love him to death because he's just such an amazing, transparent saint. And today is his appearance day. And he sings this song where he writes this beautiful poetry and he says, here I am all alone and I'm feeling weak and feeble. My dear Lord, my dear divine, please send me a teacher, send me the friendships so that I can gain more strength to carry on this journey. And this is what life is. In spiritual life, it is not something that we do alone. We do it in Sangha. We do it in association. Because when you're doing this in a Sangha, then everyone is constantly trying to see how to lift one another. As I often mention, that spiritual consciousness means how to lift another, constantly lifting one another. And material consciousness means how to pull the other person down. So materially, you'll notice if you have material association, everyone is trying to pull others down. And the more you pull others down, you go down with them. You can't pull someone down and you go up. If you know what it feels to be drowning in the river, you'll know. I remember drowning one time. And as I was drowning in the Ganga, then one of my teachers came close to rescue me. And what did I do? I just tried to grab a hold of him and somehow climb on top of him and drown him. What would happen? We would both drown. But the teacher knew how to handle me. So he'd make sure that my hands were outstretched and he grabbed me and he swam me and brought me to the shore. So therefore, we have to see in material life, when we are associating with people that are bringing others down, then you're going to go down. In the Ramayana, there's a very beautiful metaphor given. It says the world is filled with two diseases, disease of the body and the disease of the mind. Disease of the body can be cured, but the disease of the mind is very difficult to cure, because whoever encounters that person who's toxic and has that disease of the mind, whoever goes there, they will become contaminated and the virus will spread. So if someone is toxic and you want to be in their company, the likelihood of that toxicity reaching you and infecting you is very high. So here, when we're talking about mental disease, we're talking about the qualities of lust, anger, greed, and envy, and jealousy. These are toxic qualities. This is real mental disease. And the reflections of those are, this anxiety, depression, all of this are simply little branches of this real mental disease, which is, in five mental disorder: lust, anger, greed, illusion, and madness. These are mental disorders. So therefore, we have to always have teachers in our lives that can help us to cure this mental disease, because that is the real reason we're stuck in a material cycle and not able to transcend this cycle of material life. So that long answer to your beautiful question is, we need to believe in our heart and practice our own spiritual life. And when then we're stuck, then we need to have a teacher that can help to guide us. So you have nothing to worry. You're in good hands, Haripriya. Any other thoughts, questions, comments, reflections?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Deen and Dayal.
I would like to share my gratitude and thanks today to you.
Thank you. Okay. So I'm grateful to be with all of you. Thank you all so much for joining us every Saturday at 9 a.m. And please share your heart, create a Sangha wherever you are, and bring in these positive people. Surround yourself, cocoon yourself with people who are vibrating on this higher spiritual consciousness. Because that's only going to lift you up. And if you are not getting lifted up, then, there is a possibility that you may be going down. So why not go up? And the reason we go up is you get a better view of the world. If you look at the world from the ground floor, you may not see very much. But if you go to the 30th floor of the building, on top of the building, then you'll get a better view of the world. So thank you very much. Please have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.